type of client can be an important key driver, but it's not necessarily the first thing you think when you think about the business model. At the end, in some companies, this is the only thing you need to change.
So Mirko, MPD focuses on improving the business model of SMEs. Why is this aspect so important for them?
Well, first of all, companies are designed around the business model, so that's sort of normal. For SMEs, it's a special environment. We normally think that if you look at companies that are below, say, 15-20 million in revenues, you have a simple business model, and typically it's designed around the passion of the entrepreneur, and very often we're talking about family businesses. And the business model is more like reviewed by the, let's say, accountants that actually look into the numbers to see if the sustainability of the product and the production. For what concerns mid-sized companies, it's a bit more interesting because you see that you begin to have very often different part of the business model, so different part of the business, a diversification of the business line. So it is very important to make sure what are the cross interference or cross synergies within a company, and this typically need to be analyzed, and can, if well organized, can actually improve in a very strong way the way the business is executed. And it's all about execution, the way companies actually put in place their business model, so processes and the ability to grow.
So do you see any reoccurring key drivers of any successful SMEs?
Well, we see many companies, actually, especially this year, we saw many companies, mostly in the industrial and the TMT utility sector. And we see that the typical key drivers of these companies are mostly the ability of operate the company in a smooth way. So being, again, the same as I said before, we're talking about processes, and processes very often are a little bit disregarded against simple industrial processes. The example is when you talk about a process with an entrepreneur, he will tell you that he has a process because he is actually building the pieces he is putting together, or we are actually dealing with fashion a little bit, so even in fashion you have a process for that. When we say process, it can be also an administrative process. All the parts of the company need to be very well organized, and that is not like making sure that the company is too stiff. That's not the point. The point is the company need to be organized in a way to be sustainable, to make sure that when you change employees, because that might happen, you have a continuity, and especially to provide the sustainability for the long term. The operational and financial sustainability are very important for a company. And by the way, they are actually a key driver for value of the company, because when you go on the market and you propose, you need to propose the value of your company, you will have a better or higher value if the company has a more stable operations.
Regarding size, if a company grows or enlarges, does that mean it has to change its business model?
Well, it's an interesting question. Normally, it does not need to change a business model. Now it depends on what we are looking at. When you look at startups, for example, startups very often are in the tech environment, and there they need to be open to changing business model, sometimes even very quickly, and it's in the nature of that environment, of the startup environment. When you look at industrial or consumer good companies that are a bit bigger, or that become a bit bigger, it's not necessarily true. We actually have a very good case in Italy that we are looking at. We are actually trying to buy the company right now. And they are in the utility sector that's very stable, and they are in the range of 50 to 100 million in revenues. I mean, of course, it's a big fourchette, but that's because they came down from roughly 100 million 3 or 4 years ago, and now they're around 50. The point is, even in that size, the business model can be relatively simple, and the company can be easily well structured. And it's more a matter of focusing on few key drivers, where it can be like credit collection, or the ability of attracting a certain type of client against another type of client. It sort of is typical of many type of companies. Type of client can be an important key driver, but it's not necessarily the first thing you think when you think about the business model. At the end, in some companies, this is the only thing you need to change.
Thank you, Mirko, for joining us in our studios once again.
Thank you very much. Always a pleasure.
That wraps up today's interview, but don't forget you can get the latest by following us on Facebook or by following us on Instagram. Goodbye for now.